Giving Tuesday is a global generosity initiative to encourage support in communities among individuals and organizations. This celebrated day of giving highlights opportunities for raising goodwill and generosity among the holiday season. This year, Emerge Counseling Ministries is participating in Giving Tuesday in an effort to raise awareness and funds for our Fostering Hope Fund, which will provide free counseling to support parents of foster children. Our goal is to raise $25,000 to directly contribute to the care and counseling for 250 foster families. By alleviating mental health expenses for these families, they will receive the practical support they need to continue offering a nurturing environment for foster children and youth. Go to emerge.org/Giving Tuesday to give today.
Welcome to the XM Podcast. Here is your host, mental health therapist, Matthew Kanabe.
I am very hard on myself, dealt with severe anxiety.
And it made me feel like a monster. I didn't have energy to care.
There was just nothing more but to face what I had been running from.
I'm already an anxiety-filled mess.
It's just love. Like, it just goes back to love.
Well, welcome back to the XM Podcast. So we are headed into another holiday season. Here it comes. And Emerge is promoting our Fostering Hope for Giving Tuesday initiative. This is going to help out families who are fostering to get counseling and the services they need covered through gifts given into the program that we are praying blesses so many families. So please go to emerge.org/Giving Tuesday to help these families this holiday season. So in light of that, our guest has a fostering story of her own. She's going to share her story about what she, her husband, and her 3 biological kids did to step into their faith and help out those who really needed it. Please welcome to the show, Paris Yanno.
Sure. Yeah. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to join you. Like you said, I'm Paris Yanno, and I am the director of Father's Heart for the Ohio Ministry Network. And I guess I need to explain what that is because you probably don't know, right?
I don't. And, you know, as you and I, before we started recording, I'm like, you've got one of the coolest titles I think I've ever seen. Father's Heart Director. Talk to us about what that means.
So yeah, Father's Heart is just, we help mobilize and equip churches to care for vulnerable children because we know that God's heart is for the vulnerable. It's for vulnerable kids. And so that's what I do. I help churches just get engaged in working with foster families, adoptive families, families that are fragile, that are at risk of losing their kids into the foster care system, and then also helping churches connect with teens that are aging out of the foster care system, just to provide extra support for them. So that's my role as Father's Heart, and I ended up in this position. I think God prepared me for it because my husband and I were foster parents for about 10 years. And we also worked in the inner city of Youngstown I was running a nonprofit there for 26 years. I worked at the nonprofit and worked with a lot of families in crisis and a lot of vulnerable kids during that time. And so in our journey, as I said, we were foster parents. We ended up adopting 3 of our foster children, which made our family a family of 5 children because we had 6 children. I lost one there, 6 That's children. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, 6
Fortunately,
kids.
you didn't name anybody, so nobody feels left out. They don't know which one you left out. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we had 6 kids, and my heart has always been like to help people engage in this area, just helping vulnerable kids.
That's great. Would you mind talking maybe a little bit about what life was like when maybe the Lord was putting on you and your husband's heart about like opening up this idea to fostering? Because I think it's no small decision. Like it's a big one. And I know there's going to be people listening that maybe are already fostering, thinking about that. maybe they've never thought about it. But I think we've got the spectrum of people in that maybe listening. So share a little bit about what that was like, and if you don't mind.
Right. Yeah. So, my husband and I, we always knew that we wanted to open our homes to kids that were in need. And working in the inner city, we had several opportunities where kids needed a safe place, a temporary safe place to come. And so we'd have them into our home, and we started doing that kind of on a regular basis. And so we were like, well, we really need to get licensed as foster parents, to make this official. And so we got our license as foster parents to do that. And I remember specifically one time when we had these three little ones in our home, the mom had asked us if we could take them for a month because she had to go to jail because she had done something wrong. And she came to us and was like, could you please, take in our kids for the month of December, because I don't want them going into foster care and I don't have anybody. So we took those kids in. I was very reluctant. I was like, I don't see how I can do this. I have so much to do. It's December. I haven't started my Christmas shopping. We have all kinds of church activities going on. And so I was like listing off all these excuses not to take these kids in. And we already had three kids at the time. So, but my husband was like, Paris, of course we should take them in, So I kind of grudgingly agreed to it. And we took the three little ones in. And I tell you what, everything that needed to get done got done. But I remember the day that she was coming to pick them up, I was sitting on the couch. It was real early. Everybody else was sleeping. And I had one on my lap and one on my side and the other one on my side. And I was just sitting there with them. I had them ready to go, but I was praying for them and their mom. And it was like, I just heard God speak to me so clearly, like, you are holding me right now. And I was just like, I just started weeping. That so impacted me. And I was like, Lord, help me never miss an opportunity to hold you. And, we know in the word, it talks about opening up your home to strangers, right? Between the sheep and the goats, and so I just think, wow, that was the beginning. And then from then on, we just stepped into that area of foster care and taking in kids.
So can we talk about the process of the day mom or the family comes to pick up? My wife and I have talked about this, and I've shared this on the podcast, that we struggled to have children. We went through years of infertility. We talked about adoption. We talked about fostering. And the thing is I think that you and I kind of talked about this in the pre-interview. Not everybody's created for this. And I don't know that when biological mom or dad shows up, that I'm going to want to let these kids go back out of the house. How do you do it?
I think that being a foster parent, I see it over and over again. We were blessed that we were able to adopt three of our foster children, and those were the ones that we knew that they just wouldn't have a place to go back to that was safe, whatever. But I just think it's a very sacrificial type of love, honestly, because God wants these families to be reunited. He wants kids to be with their biological mom and dad, and so if that can happen, great, but if it doesn't happen, then these kids need a place. So it's like you can love them while you have them. And I think it's really trusting God that He's going to help you through the grieving process if they have to leave. Because there is a grieving process. You've given your heart to somebody, you've invested in them and really emotionally got attached, right? And for the benefit of the child. But so you are going to grieve if they do have to leave. But just saying, okay, can I trust God to help me with that? Can I trust God to help me through that?
Yeah. How long is there a generalized amount of time, or are they just it's all everybody's situation's unique? Like, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that look like?
Every situation is unique. It
Hmm.
just depends on the caseworker, depends on the parents doing what they have to do to be reunited with the children. And I tell you what, I just seen time and time again where it's like God works things out. A lot of times, foster parents will get to the chance to adopt the foster child, but I have seen situations where the foster parents have actually built such a great relationship with the mom during visitations and different things that they have actually led the mom to Christ. And
Wow.
then the mom got totally set free from drugs and stuff, started coming to church, being discipled, and now the child is reunited with the biological mom, but yet they still have the foster parents in their life. They still have their church family around them. And so that's like the perfect picture, right? That
Yeah.
God
Right.
brings life to this family and redirects the whole course of the family because of a foster family that was willing to sacrifice and
Yeah.
step into that place.
So that's a great alliteration of when it goes really well. You
Yeah.
know, let's talk about then the reality too, when I would imagine there's times that it probably doesn't. What
Right.
are some of the things to be mindful and aware of?
Yeah.
Because it is a very difficult situation to get into on probably more than
It is.
not.
Yeah. And to be honest, fostering is very, very difficult because you're bringing kids into your home that have experienced trauma. Like
Yeah.
every single child in the foster care system has experienced trauma.
Yeah.
And as a result, they're going to have behaviors that result from trauma, right? And
Hmm.
so, it is very difficult. I just have such a heart for foster parents because unless you've been there, you just really don't understand. Because when you bring that into your whole home becomes kind of chaotic, And when you have a child yelling and screaming at you, I hate you, you're not my mom, or whatever, that can be very, very difficult when you're
Yeah.
trying to love this child. Um, so I think. Wow, it is very difficult, and I think it's so, so, so important to support foster families.
Hmm.
Not everybody, like you said, should foster or adopt, and not everybody is called to that. But those who are could really use some support. And that's where I think we can all do something to help, whether
Yeah.
it be saying, hey, I'll get approved to babysit for you, or hey, let me cut your grass for you to give you, a break, or like churches can provide nights where foster parents can go out on a date and they'll do activities for the kids, or, there's just all kinds of ways to support foster families. I know when we were fostering, some of my church, well, I definitely had a prayer team that was always, always weekly praying for our family. And that meant so much. And when I was going through a difficult time, I could call them and I
Mm.
would have them come over my house and even pray at my house with me.
Yeah.
I'd have ladies in the church say, hey, I know you're having a rough week. Can I bring you dinner? That was like a lifesaver,
Yeah.
working all day, coming home stressed, and then saying, oh, I don't have to cook, I got a meal coming.
Yeah.
Um, just things like that are just so helpful for these foster families.
So you had mentioned the first initial three. How many children were you fostering, or and how long of a period did you guys do that?
Right. We fostered for about 10 years, and then we had about 10 children in the home. Some were officially when we were fostering, and some were not
Okay.
official, but yeah. So we had
And
about 10 kids altogether.
so the three that you adopted were part of that 10?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And how did that happen? I mean, again, I can't imagine. I feel like probably knowing my wife and myself, we would have wanted to adopt all of them, but
Yeah.
that certainly, is a lot. But how did you know? And were they siblings?
We'll be right back.
LPC, LPCC, IMFT, LISW, PhD. If you don't know what any of those are, go ahead and hit the 30-second fast forward button and enjoy the podcast. But if you know someone or happen to have those credentials, then Emerge might be your next career path. If you're seeking to join a team that provides authentic Christian counseling and utilizes advanced modalities, then apply today at emerge.org/careers and join us in the battle to help people find freedom and rest.
Yeah, so the first two that we took in were brother and sister. And at the time, they were 2 and 4. And we had them in our home for about 3 months. The situation was their great aunt, who was raising them, had a lot of medical issues, had to go into the hospital, had no one to take care of them. So they ended up at our house. And then they went back with their great aunt when she started doing well, but we still had a relationship with them, had a really good relationship with the great aunt. So I would get them often, like every week, like for the weekends, because great aunt, she didn't have the ability to take them to a playground or outside to play. She was fragile, medically. And so, we had them off and on as she'd go in and out of the hospital for about a couple years. And then when they were 5 and 7, the great aunt had a major stroke and had to go into a nursing home because she was paralyzed. And so then they permanently came into our home and we ended up adopting them. And so we had 5 kids. We were done. We were absolutely done. We had a full house. And
Yeah.
so we did like small things like respite. And that's like when you give, taking a child for like a week at a time or something like that. We did small things to give foster parents breaks. But I remember Children's Services called us and said, "Can you do respite for a teenager?" And so we were like, "Yeah." And to back up a little bit, a year before, we were at a Children's Services one church, one child banquet they had. And at that banquet, we met a teenager there, just briefly, like for a minute, just met him, and he was eligible to be adopted. And so we left that banquet. And for a whole year, God had laid this child on my heart. I was praying for him to get a forever home, to know Jesus and all that. And so when I said, "Yeah, we can do respite for a week," guess who walks in my door? It was the very teenager that I had been praying for a whole year. And so it was like when he came in the door, God spoke to my heart and was like, "This is your son."
Oh my
So it
gosh.
was like, I knew that we would end up adopting him. But the funny thing is, it was like we never wanted to take in teenagers. And, we had 5 kids, we were done. And so I thought, oh God, I cannot tell my husband about this because he'll think I'm crazy. And
Mhm.
so I just started praying and I was like, "God, if this is really you, you'll show my husband." And so it's so funny because we were laying in bed one night and Al said to me, "Paris, I just can't get Jay off my heart. I keep praying for him and I really feel like we're supposed to adopt him." And I was like, I knew this,
Wow.
And so, we ended up adopting Jaquan. And so he was actually, when we were able to adopt him, because he came into our home then for a while, permanently, and then we were able to adopt him when he was 17. So he was older.
Wow. That's incredible. Um, so I'm interested, what is day one like? Like, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, you've got three of your own kids, and then day one of two new kids, and it's like, hey, here's your siblings. Like, how is it awkward? How do you handle that? How do you navigate it? And
Right. Yeah. You know what? It's difficult. We were kind of fortunate because actually all the kids that we had come into our home, they knew us from our ministry that we were a
okay,
part of. And our kids were so used to us having kids over all the time that they kind of liked it. I think they liked it having extra people to play with and stuff. Um, but when that child comes into your home, it's difficult, and especially like for most foster parents, a lot of times the child doesn't come with hardly anything. Some kids just come with like maybe an outfit, maybe nothing, and it's not like you have different sizes of clothes on hand, a lot of times. And
yeah,
so you're scrambling to get clothes for the child, you're scrambling to get like toothbrush and just supplies like that oftentimes. Especially if it's abrupt and you didn't know they were coming until last minute, which happens. Um, and then I just think, oh, wow. And then you're trying to figure out, like, okay, I got to go shopping to get stuff for this child. This child's coming into my home, and they are feeling very insecure right now because they don't know what's happening. A lot of them aren't understanding what in the world is going on. I'm with these strange people, And so
yeah,
you're trying to make them feel welcomed, but at the same time, you're having to get uh, supplies to meet their needs. And
yeah,
so it can be really difficult. And one thing I love is we help churches, we help train churches on how to support foster families well. And it's really nice when a church will say, oh, they just got a new foster child. Let's get them a Grubhub gift card, or let's, take them food, or let's, get them a meal sent to their house, because that is so helpful.
yeah. Um, I think that's kind of a good place that, as far as like the church, the community, what do you think some of the harder, maybe more difficult things to navigate as foster parents, where maybe community or a church can kind of step in? Is it food, clothes, respite, a date night? Like what would be the most beneficial?
All of those are beneficial, but
Yeah,
I think for my husband and I, it was just times where we could get away. Like we had people that were willing to babysit for us, and just being able to get away for a date night. That was huge. Or oh my goodness, we had one family that sent us, just him and I, to their beach house for like a week, without the kids. And then we had other people in our church and extended family that were willing to care for the kids while we were gone. And the first time we did it, I was a nervous wreck. I was just like, oh my goodness, I was so worried about the kids, leaving them. I've never done that. But I tell you what, after we did it that one time, we were like, it's healthy. We have got to do this because it puts us in a healthier spot, and we're in a better spot to care for the kids when we can kind of take care of them yourself, So
yeah,
when you have people that will do respite for you or give you breaks, babysit for a couple hours, I just think that is really, really big. Of course, you have to be able to know the people and trust the people,
sure.
but it's important. It's important for I think foster parents to have that time.
That's good. So I got to ask you another question. I'm a mental health therapist and the studier of human behavior. How difficult is it to discipline a foster child that you're just getting to know? Like, I have no
Yeah,
problems disciplining my children, none at all. But the
right.
moment one of the neighbor kid comes over and they're doing something, I'm kind of like, I'm probably going to leave that. I just don't feel comfortable. And I've caught myself before kind of going, I probably should say something that was not okay. That's what it's an interesting thing, but this is a different situation because they're going to, my neighbor kids, they're going to leave in an hour.
Yeah, right.
But this is,
Yeah.
you may have these foster children in your home for a while. How do you address that? How do you get comfortable with that?
Yeah, that is a huge challenge. And I think one of the biggest things is that you have to make a connection with that child. You have to try in every way possible to connect with that child because without a connection, it's going to be really hard to discipline, you know?
Hmm.
And I think you have to have some understanding of trauma, which at the time we were fostering, honestly, I didn't have the knowledge I have now about trauma.
Sure.
And I sure do wish I did because I think it would have made a big difference. I would have understood that some of the behaviors we were experiencing were not really a rebellious act, but it was more out of trauma, and their brain just could not reason, or
Hmm.
it just couldn't function the way that a normal brain would, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but I just think it's so important to build relationship, and try to give as many yeses as possible. But then when you do have to say no or correct, it will be a little easier, I think, if they know you care and that you have a relationship with them. And, it's one thing that I think is like, kind of have some redos. Like if a kid, like, flies off the handle and, I don't know, acts smart or whatever, you can say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's back up a minute and let's think about this. Could we redo that? Could you say that another way?
Yeah.
Just kind of have them. Uh, and I think the more you can do things like that, it kind of shows them the right way to respond, the right way. Because honestly, they may have come from a family, and I've seen it
100%.
where they were just used to talking hostile to each other,
Yeah.
or responding
Yep.
that way. And so here they are, and they're in a new home with new rules, new expectations of how to act. And so a lot of times you have to be very patient and kind of like teach them, like, that's not acceptable here. So let's see, how can you respond,
Yeah.
Um, and then you have things like just hoarding food or stealing and stuff, and just trying to reassure them, like, this food, maybe have like a place of a snack basket. This food is always here for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can eat from this basket. This is here for me. You don't have to take food, like just things like that. You kind of have to think, like, why are they acting this way? And what is the need that they may have that maybe I can prevent that behavior next time by meeting that need or letting them be reassured that this need is going to be met.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing up the trauma aspect of this because obviously there is an abandonment of feeling of not knowing exactly what everybody's situation, where they're coming from. I would imagine though, and I'm trying to put myself into the mind of like maybe a young couple who's got some young kids who would be thinking of doing this and then going, how does this then affect our children? We're going to open up our home, and undoubtedly we're probably in this type of situation bringing in somebody that's got some trauma, probably coming from an environment that's much different than ours. What concerns, what might we have, and how do you navigate that so that your children are protected?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think it's a lot of teaching moments.
Yeah.
It's a lot of teaching moments and helping your kids understand that this child didn't have a loving family, or didn't have, you know, um, wasn't taught the way you guys are taught, or even with younger kids, I think it's important, like, you just treat them like, don't I know with my kids, it was hard because I had one child that it seemed like we were always having to give attention to because she had a lot of needs and a lot of behaviors and stuff. And so at times I felt like I was neglecting my own kids because I'm constantly helping this child. And so I had to make sure that I took time with my other kids and not always like just because there was a need responding constantly to this child, like I had
Right.
to
Yeah.
make sure I was giving all the kids attention. So that was a big thing. And one thing I did, I always prayed, like, God, I don't want to be helping, bringing other kids into my home and helping other kids and losing my own kids.
Yeah.
And then, I had all of them were my kids once we adopted, but, still, you're like, I want all my kids to thrive. And I was worried about that. I always prayed about that. But I tell you what, my kids now, they're older, they're adults, and in talking with them and kind of we did an interview together with them, and I asked them, like, what was hard for you bringing kids into our home? Like, as an adult, what would you say looking back, And one thing that they did say, it was really hard for us to see you bringing kids and then have them treat you really bad or have
Mm-hmm.
them say hurtful things to you. Like, that was hard for my kids
Sure.
to see. And then another thing was, they said, and then, they said we ended up, at the time, it was difficult having to share our stuff, our toys and that, But then they all said that they were very, very grateful for the experience of having other kids into our home because it taught them how to have compassion for others and how to share and how to be generous. And honestly, all three of my kids, my biological kids, like one is an OT that works with special needs children.
Mm-hmm.
The other one has taken kids into his home and works in the inner city in the ministry there full time. And then the other one is a social worker working with kids in the foster care system
Wow.
and being a school counselor. So I think overall it ended up being okay and good.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're going through it, it's hard, I'm sure, for the
So
youngsters.
I know the one you adopted was 17. The other ones you adopted much younger, correct? Or were they close in age with your biological kids? Like, were they around?
Yeah. So the younger ones that we ended up adopting, they were in our home at 5 and 4. I mean, yeah, 2 and 4. And then we actually ended up adopting them at 7 and 9. So it was a journey of back and forth for a while and stuff. But yeah, so the younger two, they were younger than my children, except for the older one, the my daughter that we adopted, she's like 6 months younger than my biological daughter, so they were very close in age. And so that was a little trying because, like, my daughter had to share her toys. She ended up having to share her friends, and and it was hard sometimes because one of them would get invited to want somebody's
Mhm.
party or something and the other one wouldn't. So it's just like navigating that stuff was a little difficult.
I can see where there's benefits, but also it creates a little bit of probably difficulties if they're
Yeah,
that close in age.
yeah,
And so then are all of them are grown right now, and
yeah,
and and
right.
and and do they still have relationship together?
Yeah, they do. Um, our and the 17-year-old we adopted, he's kind of right in the middle of everybody. So when we adopted him, my older two boys were had graduated, started college, and then we had Jay that we adopted at 17, and then the three others were a little younger than him. So um yeah, but today, yeah, they are all like pretty close. Um we have a great time when we all get together. They love
That's
to
good.
have game nights and stuff. Now we have three of them don't live close by. They moved out of Ohio, so
Hmm.
two of them we don't get to see that often. One of them that moved out with his family, we visit them. They're in Atlanta, so it's not too far. But the other two are in
Okay.
Florida, so we don't get to see them as much
Yeah.
as we'd like to.
Yeah. Well, those are at least good places if you want to go visit. That's
Yeah, right. Yeah.
that's good. I know this is like a hypothetical, but it sounds like through this process and fostering that moved into adoption, I wonder what their lives would have looked like if they wouldn't have been able to do that. Like if they would have been in maybe the environment that was dysfunctional. It's like I just wonder what their lives would look like. There's probably not an answer to that, but
Right.
it
Yeah.
sounds like through this process, you've been able to help launch three, four, what's not the three
Right.
adoptive kids into society that maybe they wouldn't have had as much opportunity. I don't know. What
Yeah, I think so. And it's hard because you're taking in kids who have experienced trauma, like I said, and everything. And sometimes it doesn't always turn out the way you want it to.
hmm
Sometimes,
Sure.
it's better than you think. So I know with us, our one son, the one that we adopted at 17, he at that point he was failing school, getting kicked out a lot because he was getting in fights, and that he had no aspiration of going to college, didn't think he could go to college.
Sure.
He was actually very smart, but so after we adopted him, he ended up coming and being a part of the Christian school that my other kids were a part of. And just, oh my goodness, talk about a complete turnaround. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's not always the case, but with him, it was like
Wow.
he became an honor roll student, a star athlete. Teachers loved him. He never got kicked out of school. I mean, and then he went on to go to college, graduate from college, and is thriving. But you know what? Like that took a lot, not just us, but like teachers that invested in him, coaches that invested in him. So there was a lot there. And then we have one child that kind of still struggles. I mean,
Hmm.
like she does okay, but you know what? She's on her own. She's working and that, but she has a lot of ups and downs, and she struggles. Um, then our other son that we adopted, he's thriving also. He's one of
Yeah.
those that would try to get out of work, any chores. He would just shun from any of that, go hide or whatever. And now he's thriving. He does cybersecurity in the Air Force, and he's
Wow.
married and doing great. So it's just, yeah.
That's awesome. I think it's such an amazing thing that you and your husband were able to do. That is a huge walk of your faith to be able to do that. And as you and I started the podcast, we were praying, and it just kind of hits me. We know from Scripture that God has such a heart for those who are displaced, for those who are hurting, especially for children who don't have a safe place, a safe environment to grow up in. I've done a clinical work for a long time, and a lot of my work has been with adolescents and children. And not having a safe adult in their life at all. Like
Yeah.
there's no place where that is such a hijacker of a child's brain and just their soul. And I would imagine you guys probably experienced that, the fear of adults that is already imminently kind of in them because of the experiences they've had. And so I just commend you for being able to do that and spend that time. Is there anything that you would like to say to those listening that, maybe things around, like maybe the Lord's put some on your heart, but you and I talked really specifically, this isn't for everybody, and that's okay. Like, we're all called to different aspects of ministry. This isn't like everybody should be doing this, but what are some of your thoughts around that?
Yeah, you know what? I often think of the why. Like, why am I doing this? Why should we care for the vulnerable? And really, the gospel is our why, right? I mean, God has adopted us into his family. The incarnation, Jesus left heaven to step into this broken, messed up, messy world, to become broken himself so that we could be made whole. And I just think, as Christians, as followers of Christ, we are all called to the vulnerable. We're all called to step into some kind of brokenness, whether it's somebody struggling with addiction that we can come alongside and pray for and help, or whatever it is. But I think so many times we like life comfortable and we like to shy away from brokenness and dark places. But I really feel like God is calling us all to that in some way. Like you said, not everybody can be a foster or an adoptive parent, and not everybody should, but we can all do something. There's something that God has for each of us to do to invest in a life of another. And I just think when we do that, I think it's hard, it's difficult, but yet it gives you such joy. Right now we're not able to foster or be foster parents anymore because of just the season of life we're in. But, I mentor a girl in the foster care system, and it's so difficult, but yet it is so, so rewarding. Like you said, just having that positive adult in a child's life can make a huge, huge difference. Yeah.
It's huge. Well, Paris, I appreciate it so much. Is there a place for resources that you would like to share with our audience in case they want to get more information on these types of things and others?
Yeah, you can go to our website. It's fathersheartohio.com. And there's a resource tab where you can check out resources for foster families and even church resources. And there's all kinds of information there that you can check out.
Good. And I will put that in the show notes so they can go directly to that if they want to check that out. Paris, God bless you. Thank you so much for your time and talking about this topic that is so important to Emerge. I mean, we have such a heart for our clients who are in the foster care system, and we've been serving that for 50 some years, and so grateful to be able to talk to you about this today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
It's my pleasure.
Well, thank you, Paris, for sharing the wonderful account of what you and your family did to bless so many people. Like Paris mentioned, not everyone is called to foster or adopt, but there are things that we can be doing to support those who are. Giving those parents a date night, helping with food, clothes, and praying for them. Those are just a few, but there's so much more that can be done. Please, if you're feeling in your heart to give to the Fostering Hope Giving Tuesday campaign, please, whatever the Lord puts on your heart, please follow through. Thank you for listening. Until next time, or when our Savior comes, God bless.
In a world where life can feel overwhelming, there's a place in the greater Northeast Ohio area where people find peace, hope, and healing. Emerge Counseling Ministries. For over 50 years, Emerge continues to be a trusted faith-based counseling center offering professional mental health care with a foundation in Christian values. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, grief, or simply feeling stuck, our licensed counselors are here to walk alongside you. And the impact speaks for itself. 97% of our clients say they would recommend Emerge to a friend. 98% say they truly felt understood and heard by their counselor. And 84% report that their issue is improving through the care with us. At Emerge, you're not just a case number, you're a whole person. And we are here to support your journey towards healing and growth. It's confidential, compassionate, Christ-centered care. Learn more or schedule an appointment today at emerge.org. That's EMERGE.org. Remember, you don't have to walk alone.